Many people dream of speaking a new language fluently. They imagine traveling, making new friends, or getting better jobs. But for many learners, language study feels difficult, slow, and frustrating. They spend years studying grammar rules, memorizing long word lists, and still feel afraid to speak. New studies in language learning and brain science show that there is an easier and more natural way to become fluent. This way is not about studying harder, but about learning smarter. Fluency is not perfection. Fluency means you can understand and communicate ideas in real situations. You do not need perfect grammar or a perfect accent. You only need to feel comfortable using the language in daily life. To understand the easiest way to be fluent, we must first understand how the brain learns languages. Research shows that the brain learns languages best through meaning, repetition, and use. This is how children learn their first language. They do not study grammar books. They listen, understand, try to speak, make mistakes, and slowly improve. Adults can learn in the same way, but many adults use methods that fight against the brain instead of working with it. Fear of mistakes is one of the biggest problems. When learners are afraid to make mistakes, they speak less, and the brain receives less practice. Studies show that mistakes are not bad. In fact, mistakes help the brain learn faster because they show the brain what needs to change. One important part of fluency is natural exposure. This means hearing and seeing the language often in real contexts. When you listen to conversations, podcasts, videos, or songs, your brain starts to notice patterns. It learns how sentences sound, how words connect, and how meaning is expressed. You do not need to understand every word. Understanding the general idea is enough. Over time, your brain fills the gaps. This process happens naturally when exposure is regular. Even 15 or 20 minutes a day can make a big difference if it is done every day. However, exposure alone is not enough. New research shows that active use of the language is essential. Active use means speaking, writing, or repeating sentences out loud. When you speak, the brain works harder than when you only listen. This effort creates stronger memory connections. Speaking from the beginning is one of the fastest ways to improve fluency. You do not need to wait until you feel ready, because readiness comes from practice, not from waiting. Talking to yourself, recording your voice, or speaking with language partners are all effective methods. The goal is communication, not perfection. Listening is also more effective when it is active. Instead of only listening passively, learners can repeat what they hear, focus on key words, or listen several times to the same short audio. One powerful technique is shadowing. This means listening to a speaker and repeating their words at the same time or just after them. Studies show that shadowing improves pronunciation, rhythm, and confidence. Watching videos with subtitles can also help. First, subtitles in your own language can help you understand the meaning. Then, subtitles in the target language help connect sounds and words. Finally, no subtitles help full listening ability. Reading and writing are also important for fluency, especially at the B1 level. Reading helps you see how sentences are built and how words are used in context. It is better to read texts that are not too difficult. When texts are too hard, the brain becomes tired and learning slows. When texts are at the right level, learning feels easier and more enjoyable. Writing helps organize ideas and grammar. Writing short texts, such as daily journals or short stories, is very effective. When you write, you notice what you do not know, and this helps you improve faster. Vocabulary learning is another area where many learners make mistakes. Memorizing long lists of words is not very effective. New studies show that learning words in phrases is much better. Words are rarely used alone in real life. They are part of expressions. When you learn phrases, you learn how to use words naturally. For example, instead of learning the word decision alone, it is better to learn phrases like make a decision or important decision. This helps the brain remember meaning and usage together. Focusing on common words and phrases that you really use in daily life is much more powerful than learning rare or difficult words. Grammar often seems as the hardest part of language learning, but it does not need to be. Grammar is easier when it is learned through examples instead of rules. When you see and hear the same structure many times, the brain starts to understand it naturally. For example, by listening to stories in the past tense, learners begin to feel how the past tense works before studying the rules. Grammar explanations can still be useful, but they should support understanding, not replace practice. Grammar should be a tool, not a barrier. Memory plays a big role in fluency. The brain remembers better when learning is emotional, meaningful, and repeated over time. This is why spaced repetition is effective. Instead of studying many things one time, it is better to review a little many times. Sleep is also very important. Studies show that sleep helps the brain organize and store new information. Learning a little every day and sleeping well helps language grow naturally in the mind. Music, images, and stories also help memory because they create stronger connections. Motivation and habits are key to long-term success. Motivation gives you energy, but habits keep you going. Motivation can change, but habits stay. Even on days when you feel tired, a small habit keeps the language alive in your brain. Practicing 10 or 15 minutes every day is better than studying 2 hours once a week. Consistency is more important than intensity. When language practice becomes part of your daily routine, progress feels easier and more natural. Technology has made language learning easier than ever before. Apps, online videos, podcasts, and conversation platforms give learners many opportunities to practice. Technology is most useful when it helps real communication and regular practice. Tools should support learning, not replace human interaction. Speaking with real people, even online, is one of the strongest ways to build fluency and confidence. Daily practice does not need to be complicated. A simple routine that includes listening, speaking, reading, and writing is enough. Short activities done every day create strong results over time. Progress is not always fast or visible, but it is always happening when practice is consistent. Measuring progress is not about tests only. Feeling more comfortable, understanding more, and speaking more easily are signs of real improvement. Many learners make common mistakes that slow them down. Trying to be perfect is one of them. Another is studying too much grammar without using the language. Another is learning too many words without context. Avoiding these mistakes and focusing on communication makes learning easier and more enjoyable. Fluency is not a final destination. Even fluent speakers continue learning. But fluency gives freedom. It allows you to connect with people, cultures, and ideas in a new way. In the end, the easiest way to be fluent in any language is to use the language often, without fear and with enjoyment. Speak early, listen actively, learn useful phrases, practice every day, and accept mistakes as part of the journey. The brain is designed to learn languages. When you give it the right conditions, fluency becomes not a dream, but a natural result.